My name is Ethan Carter. I'm 33, born and raised in a small town just outside Toronto. I fix things for a living: doors, locks, windows, security systems. I've got a van, a toolbox, and a decent Google rating. People don't really look at me twice. I'm the guy they call when something's broken. That's all. But this is the story I've never told anyone. I call it, I was replacing her locks when she smiled and said, "Why don't you keep a key too?" It started on a Tuesday morning in late October. You know the kind, when the cold is just beginning to bite and the air smells like wet leaves and old wood smoke. I had a job scheduled downtown, a brownstone apartment in one of those gentrified neighborhoods that still pretended to be gritty. The client's name was Ava Sinclair. I remember seeing it on the job order and pausing, like I'd heard the name before. When I knocked, the door opened before my hand left the wood. And there she was, tall, messy black sweater, faded jeans with one cuff rolled, hair pinned up like she hadn't planned to answer the door. But it was her eyes that hit me. Hazel, but sharp, calculating, like she was reading something on me I didn't even know was there. "You're early," she said. "Traffic was light," I replied, stepping back politely. "You called about a lock replacement?" She nodded, stepping aside. "Yeah, my ex has a copy of the keys. Thought I should, do the standard girl in a thriller move." I chuckled, one of those dry, safe laughs that doesn't mean much. But I was already unsettled. Her place was too neat, too quiet. It didn't smell like someone had just been crying or moving on. It smelled like coffee and vanilla candles. Controlled. She stood in the kitchen while I got to work. A laptop open. The soft hum of jazz behind her, as if she'd soundtracked this moment. "So, you do this a lot? Help women escape their ghosts?" I paused, screwdriver in hand. "Sometimes. Usually it's just deadbolts and break-ins. Divorce situations." I glanced at her. "What's yours?" She tilted her head. "Little bit of everything." She didn't elaborate, and for reasons I didn't understand, I didn't press. Took an hour. New lock, new deadbolt, new handle. As I tested the click of the new latch, she stepped behind me. Close. Close enough for her perfume to reach me. Jasmine and something I couldn't name. "Thanks, Ethan," she said softly. "You were easy to trust." And then she smiled. It wasn't flirtatious. It wasn't awkward. It was something else entirely. Sad, tender, like she was seeing someone else in me. Someone she wanted to believe existed. And then, as I handed her the new key, she hesitated, looked at it, then back at me. "Why don't you keep a key too?" I blinked, thought she was joking, but she wasn't. I don't usually," I started. "You don't have to. I just meant..." She trailed off, suddenly unsure of her own offer. Forget it. It was dumb. But something in me didn't want to forget it. So I didn't say no. I just took the key, slipped it into my jacket, told myself it was symbolic. Nothing more. Over the next few weeks, I kept thinking about her. Not in a weird way, just like a song you hum without realizing. She had that effect. Then she called me again. Her intercom was broken. Could I take a look? I went. Of course I went. We talked longer this time. She offered coffee, asked questions about my life, my past, nothing invasive but curious. I told her about my dad, the way he'd taught me to take apart clocks when I was 7. Told her about my ex, who'd left when my brother overdosed. Told her about the quiet life I lived now. She listened like no one ever had. Not to fix me, just listened. And then she told me something I didn't expect. "I used to be a therapist," she said, her hands wrapped around her mug. "Private practice. Mostly trauma cases." What happened? I got too close to someone I couldn't save. She didn't elaborate. Again, I didn't press. There was something sacred in the way she protected her scars. But as weeks passed, we kept finding excuses to talk. I fixed her balcony latch. She brought me sandwiches when I was nearby. We joked about getting a loyalty punch card. 5 repairs and the 6th comes with a kiss. It was easy. Strange, beautiful, and easy. Until it wasn't. One night, She asked if I wanted to come in and watch a film. I hesitated at her doorway, like it was a line I wasn't sure I should cross. Only if it's psychological horror, I said, trying to lighten the mood. Even better, she smiled. It's about a man who starts falling for a woman who might be lying about everything. I laughed, but something in her eyes wasn't laughing. We didn't watch the film. We sat on the couch and talked until dawn. About loss, regret, the people we couldn't save. At one point, she reached out, brushing her fingers over the scar on my left wrist. A memory I didn't share with many. A night I'd once tried to forget myself entirely. I've seen that look before, she said softly. What look? The one that says you didn't want to wake up, but something made you stay. She didn't say more, just leaned her head on my shoulder, and we sat there in silence. That was the night everything changed. The next morning I texted her. No reply. I called. Nothing. That afternoon, I went by the apartment. No answer at the door. I used the key. She wasn't there. Everything looked untouched, like she just stepped out. But on the counter was a single envelope, with my name in her handwriting. Inside, one sentence. If he finds me, don't come looking. I read that note 100 times. Maybe more. I remember standing in her kitchen, the same place she'd once smiled at me over coffee, hands shaking, trying to breathe through a cold panic I couldn't name. The message was short, bare, but beneath those 8 words was a world of fear. If he finds me, who was he? Her ex? The one she joked about needing to replace locks for? I hadn't thought he was real or dangerous, but now everything felt off. I checked her cupboards. Clothes were gone. Essentials too. Drawers open like someone packed in a rush. But her laptop was still on the counter, closed but not powered down. I opened it, half hoping it would give me something. The screen flickered on. A document was still open. It was a patient file, or what looked like one. Name Jonah Wells. Condition borderline personality disorder. Attachment obsession. Violent episodes under high emotional stress. Session notes. Last patient's fixation on former therapist is escalating. Boundaries dissolved. Restraining order considered. Potential breach imminent. I backed away like I'd touched fire. She hadn't told me she was the obsession. But I knew now. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat on my couch, TV on low, replaying every moment with Ava. Every half-truth, every silence. And all I could feel, beneath the confusion, the rising dread, was the unbearable ache of missing her. It was more than romantic. It was like someone had reached inside and ripped out something I didn't know was essential until she was gone. The next morning, I went to the police. They asked if we were in a relationship. I said no. They asked if I had any reason to believe she was in danger. I showed them the note, the document. They nodded, took it down, said they'd open a file. That was it. Just a file. A week passed. No word. Then a voicemail. A man's voice. Quiet, eerie in its calm. Stay away from her. She's not who you think she is. And I'm not someone you want to cross. No number. No name. Just that. I sat there for hours after, staring at the floor. The key she gave me still in my hand. Like it meant something. Like it could open a door back to her. I thought about walking away. I really did. But I couldn't. So I started looking. I drove to old therapy offices listed in online directories, talked to receptionists, used every bit of charm and desperation I had. One finally gave me a clue. She left 3 years ago, the woman whispered, glancing around. Said she had to disappear, that someone crossed a line. I asked for more, but she just shook her head. She loved her patients, but she was scared. Really scared. That night, I went home and broke down. Not because I couldn't find her, but because I finally understood what it meant when someone smiles through terror. When they give you a key not to their home, but to the one part of themselves still hoping for rescue. 2 more weeks passed. Then I saw her. I was walking out of a hardware store, rain falling in thin, gray lines, and there she was, across the street. Ava. Hair tucked under a hood. New jacket. Same posture. Same unmistakable grace. She didn't see me at first. I didn't call out. I followed. She walked 3 blocks, turned down an alley beside an old bookstore. I kept my distance, careful, quiet. When she stopped, I caught up. She was fumbling with a lock. I whispered her name. She spun around, keys clattering to the ground, eyes wide with panic. But when she saw me, that panic broke. Not into relief, not into anger, but into tears. Inside the tiny apartment, she poured us tea like it was just another visit, like I hadn't tracked her down, like she hadn't vanished from my life like smoke. "I told you not to come looking," she said, voice brittle. "I had to," I replied. "You mattered." She looked at me for a long time. "I'm not who you think I am, Ethan. I have a past I can't outrun." "You think I don't?" I leaned in. "You think I haven't made choices I regret every night?" She looked down, said nothing, then finally, quietly, "He killed someone, Jonah, his last therapist. I was next." That stopped me cold. I got away. I moved, changed my name. I started over. But I knew he'd find me eventually. I sat there, watching her fingers tremble as they clutched the mug. He was in love with me, Ethan, obsessively, dangerously, and a part of me felt responsible. I reached across the table, took her hand. "You're not. He chose his path. You don't owe him anything." Tears filled her eyes. "Then why do I still feel like I do?" We stayed there in that silence. The kind that doesn't demand words. The kind that just is. She didn't ask me to stay that night, but I did. Not out of romance, out of love. Over the next few days we talked, really talked, about my brother, about her escape, about trauma and guilt and what it means to survive. We went to the police. Again, this time with everything. The voice recording, the notes, the threats. And they listened, really listened. Jonah was arrested a week later in another province. He'd been tracking her digital trail. He had a folder of photos, plan. She broke down when she heard. I held her. I didn't say it's over, because with trauma like that, it's never really over. Epilogue. It's been 8 months. Ava's learning to breathe again. She volunteers at a shelter now, helps women in transition, says it's how she reclaims her story. As for me, I still fix locks, but not just doors, sometimes hearts. We're not together in the way movies would write it, but we're rebuilding something. Trust, time, maybe love. And yes, I still have the key. Life doesn't always give you perfect endings. Sometimes it gives you broken people who learn how to hold each other gently. Sometimes it gives you a second chance, wrapped in silence and pain. And sometimes it gives you a woman who smiles through her scars and says, "Why don't you keep a key too?" Because maybe, just maybe, she wants you to stay. Not to save her, but to witness her saving herself.